Over 4,000 in lost upside potential. This is my biggest retro gaming regret. Hello YouTube, N60 Fortress here. Let's get into it then. My biggest retro gaming regret. It felt quite topical, pretty pertinent to do this in the wake of the PlayStation 3 prices going through the roof. It just got me thinking about the price rises in general, and the one that really got away from me. I used to be the proud owner of ClayFighter Sculptor's Cut Complete in Box on the Nintendo 64. Some of you in North America will know what I'm talking about. Some of you won't have the foggiest. Let me enlighten you for those of you that don't. ClayFighter Sculptor's Cut was a revised version of the well-known ClayFighter 63 and a third on the Nintendo 64. Charming little game, but underwhelming, I would say. It was pretty cool how you could, it was like a 2D fighter, but you could go into extended areas, either left of the screen or right of the screen as you fought your way into that sort of area. That was pretty neat, but overall it's pretty underwhelming. The combos aren't that great, the characters are a bit, yeah. So they made a revised version anyway, the developers. They did listen to the critics, and they met, you know, it's unheard of really, but to quickly release a more patched version of the game, I guess. But it was a North American exclusive, so NTSC, it didn't come out in Europe or Japan or anything like that. Furthermore, it was a Blockbuster rental only. This wasn't abnormal back in those days, especially, well, North America, to do Blockbuster rental onlys. It's not the only one. And as it says, it's a rental only, so you can't buy it. You can't buy it from the shop, and you can't get it from any other place on websites or anything like that. You could only rent it, and then obviously at the end of the N64 life, or whenever the game was not rented so much, it would end up in the bargain bin for you to be able to purchase. But it was a limited print run anyway. It wasn't abnormal for Blockbuster to throw boxes and manuals away, so you only find in the main cartridge only of this game that exist, and normally they are plagued with the Blockbuster rental stickers on them to stop people trying to steal them and things like that. So it's hard to get a cartridge that's clean, really, relatively. And then they used to throw away box and manual, so finding a box is pretty challenging and certainly in good condition. But the biggest, most challenging part of the whole bundle is the manual. For some reason, a lot of cases they kept the box but chucked the manual. So the manual is the most valuable piece of the trio, if you like, of the whole item as a complete. Now, I used to own a copy. I was always mesmerized by this game because it was widely considered the rarest N64 game in terms of certainly North America at least, and probably in general. I know that is contested. You know, some people say Super Bowling and others say Stunt Racer perhaps, but I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments because I'm not that into North American games, but I was under the impression, okay, this is the one that's hyped up the most, so it must be. And that just sort of, you know, it was nice as a thought to own that one day perhaps. And you know, so how did I get hold of this then? Well, one day one just appeared complete on eBay in around 2017. And let's just go into the backstory about how the person I bought it off got it, actually, because that's quite interesting. So the person was in the UK, obviously, so that was appealing to me. I don't have to have any import costs. And they bought it way back in 2005, they told me, and they paid just $15. Yes, $15 for a complete in box Sculptor's Cut in 2005. They actually bought it off Amazon in the early days of Amazon. If anyone can remember that far back, I certainly can't. I was an eBay user in 2005, but I'd never heard of Amazon back then, I don't think. And they told me they had to create a US login and buy it, and then they had to beg the seller to post it to the UK, and it all came good, and they obviously must have paid postage on top. But what have they paid, about $30 or something like that, maybe a little bit more for it, and it's just crazy really. So, and they held it all those years, so they held it for like 12 years to 2017. Finally shocked to see the value of it, and they were happy to sell it. And they actually also had a complete in box Stunt Racer as well, but I couldn't afford it at the time. That was listed and that went at auction on eBay UK in 2017, and that sold for about £750. Anyway, they put the Sculptor's Cut up, and I, you know, started messaging them, and I was trying to get them to just sell it me for a fixed cost rather than go for an auction. And to my delight, we came to an agreement. I paid 1,300 Great British pounds in about 2017, I'd say. And we got the deal over the line. And I paid all in, so like PayPal, we went direct to PayPal, so we skipped the eBay fees, but he still had to absorb the PayPal charges, and he had to post the thing insured. But I paid 1,300, and that was a lot of money at the time. It was a big commitment. I was in my 20s, you know, I'm 37 now. I would have been, you know, a fair bit younger, probably 26 or so. So, you know, not as financially secure as I am now. And that was a lot of money, £1,300. Just to put some perspective on that, some of the rarest PAL games like Snowboard Kids 2 and StarCraft 64, the Australian PAL exclusives in terms of PAL, they were going for about 700 at the time. So you're talking nearly double the cost of Snowboard Kids 2 at the time, which is now a £2,000 game plus in good condition for PAL. So, you know, it was a big commitment, and I still went through with it. I knew the rarity of the game, and it was great. You know, I enjoyed owning it. I was a proud owner. And then somewhere along the way, we got into 2018, and you know, the SNES Mini had come out, the NES Mini, and there was talks of an N64 Mini. Would that have an impact on prices? And prices, the bubble in general, everyone was talking about this bubble was got to pop at some point, and what did we know, right? And I don't know, it got into my head a little bit, and I was at that stage of my life, like I wanted to sell, and I actually had a full N64 collection like this, but I sold back down to my originals. And yeah, ClayFighter Sculptor's Cut got sold as well. I sold it for 1,500 plus post and fees, so I made about 200 quid profit in just over a year. I was happy with that. You know, most people, you can't turn your nose up at that. That's a healthy profit. You know, over 10% in a year, and you know, 200 quid in your back pocket. And in selling my collection down to my original games, cumulatively with that £200 profit and 1,500 back in, you know, I made quite a lot of money, and that was used to just invest in the stock market at the time, which did go on to have a good run. I bought a new car, and I did things with the money, so I don't overly regret my decision. It was the right thing at that time in my life. But with this game particularly, that was just the tip of the iceberg. So obviously we know that COVID hit and prices just rallied. And to buy that game now, complete in box, ClayFighter Sculptor's Cut, you're looking probably like $5,000 US, £4,000 at least. It's probably more. So the only sold listing on eBay that I could find was a box and manual, a terribly battered box and manual by my standards, and much worse than my copy. And that went for about $4,000. So one with the cartridge, which a loose cart does about $1,000 now. You're looking at $5,000 for a battered copy. So I think it's fair to say, like a copy like mine would probably be nearer like my old copy would be nearer $7,000 or something like that. So you're looking at about £6,000, I would say. It all depends on the buyer and seller at the time. You know, if you can't find a buyer, then it's obviously not worth that. But people have been paying around that figure for decent copies, and I'm not gonna lie and say it was mint. It was just very good condition. It had issues. Had signs of wear, but the cartridge was clean. The box didn't have any nasty stickers or rips or damage. No tabs missing. It was nice. The manual was pretty good. I had it in a nice protective sleeve, and so yeah, this isn't a woe is me video. It's not a feel sorry for me. Like, I'm comfortable with my decision at the time, but when you see how much that game's gone up in price, there's mind games there. You can't help but think, if I just held it a little bit longer. I don't regret selling it in the sense that I don't collect North American games anymore, and it would stand out like a sore thumb. So I was comfortable with my decision to part with it. And by all accounts, it's a very poor game as well. It's not like one that I'm overly keen to play. But as a collector's piece, as an investment, you know, it's right on the money. And yeah, it's one that you got to come to terms with. I'm not alone. There's so many of these stories that exist. I mean, imagine if you're the guy that sold it for 15 bucks, the guy that sold it to me. Like, if he'd seen the price now, he'd think, damn, I held it all those years and sold it a little bit early. So like, this isn't, I want a sympathy or anything like that, you know. This is part of the game, right? And the risk you take, like, you know. So what can we learn from this? We could probably think, well, maybe we should hold on to our rare items longer than possible, really. If you need to sell something, sell the fodder first, and then see if you've got enough that way. If you've got rare items like that, rare gems, rare pieces, it's probably worth trying to keep hold of them where possible, unless you absolutely have to sell. What I did get right is I sold to a collector who wanted to go for the full worldwide set. He's got a full power set. I think he's near getting a full worldwide set now, certainly full North American exclusives. I think he's more or less got now, and I think a lot of them he has sealed as well. And he still owns it, so like, and he said he's never selling it. So, you know, like, I think I got something right. I made sure it went to a good home. I didn't want it to go to someone who was just going to flip it and try and get even more than what I sold it for, you know. That would have hurt. It's gone to a good home, and it's hopefully in its home for a much longer time than it already has been. It already has been a long time, so, but they still own it, and they're a proud owner, and I'm glad, if nothing else, that it's in a good home. And yeah, it's just one of those stories, really. If you look on price charting, I think they have it around 4,000 US dollars. Obviously, you know, that goes off recent sold data, but, you know, there might be a lot of sales that go on, you know, offline, if you know what I mean, like off eBay and so on. So the data isn't fully captured. If people agree terms just directly and pay, you know, just through PayPal, but not on a marketplace, then that data isn't captured within that. But given that a box and manual sold for like $4,000 in worse condition than the one I had, I think it's more than fair to say that there's £4,000 worth of lost upside potential. I'm not the only one, like I said, in video games. It happens all around the world. This is a known phenomenon. There would have been people who bought Apple shares early on. They would have seen the price going up and up. They would have sold, been happy with the money that they made, only to think, if I kept my Apple shares that I held as an early adopter of Apple, I'd have been a millionaire by now. So look, you know, this is just a small drop in the ocean in comparison, but I'd like to think, compared to a lot of stories, that is a pretty big upside potential lost, because, you know, £4,000 is £4,000 at the end of the day. It's a lot of money, and I think it's just the quick turnaround time. That COVID time hit and the price just exploded to the upside like you'd never believe, and nobody saw that coming, really. I'd be lying if I said I didn't think the price would continue to go up. Of course, like, that's all that's ever happened. It's a rare piece, like, why wouldn't it? But I thought, you know, a couple of years down the line, it might have gone up another few hundred quid. So it's like, okay, well, fair enough. But it weighs on your mind when you've got, I'm just trying to put yourself in the shoes that I was in, like having a game that's not even native to your country. So therefore the audience for buying it is a lot smaller, really. And then it's over double the value of the next highest game that you own, which is, you know, a PAL exclusive, an Australian PAL exclusive at just under half the price. You know, it's going to weigh on your mind, isn't it? And it's an illiquid item. I was terrified that someone might break into my house. I mean, look at me now. I probably should still be terrified, but as I've grown older, I'm less worried about those sort of things, really. I mean, I just, you know, you just think, well, I've insured it, I've done everything I can to protect it, so don't worry about it. But back as a kid, you know, it was just one of those things. And yeah, that's the one that got away. I'm interested to hear your stories. Have you got any retro gaming experiences, games, memorabilia, posters, standees, things that you used to own that are now worth a lot more, kiosks? So many different things that have gone up in value to levels that we'd never really expect to. And all we can say is to learn from this is, so like if I was to sell my collection off, I'd be getting rid of all the, you know, the filler first, right? And I'd just keep the rare ones for as long as I needed to. If I absolutely needed the money, then of course you just got to let them go, right? And this happens in life, and it's not healthy to keep everything. You can't take it with you. But I think if you think that I've got a decent amount of time to still be here and I don't need the money, it's probably worth holding on to the rarities, because they're just going to accumulate in price. Like, people say this bubble was going to pop, but it really doesn't look like it when people are still paying, you know, 4,000 or 5,000 for a complete in box N64 game, right? So yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been eye-opening. Like I said, it's not a woe is me. I'm comfortable with my decision. I made money. I invested, the stock market booms from the point where I invested right through COVID. So I made money on the money I invested. I also had a new car. So, you know, there's no regrets there, but it is one that you look at and think, yeah, that's one that got away and a lot of missed upside potential. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like. It really helps the channel out. Add a comment, let me know any of your stories, like I said. And yeah, if you're new to this channel or a returning viewer and you aren't yet subscribed, please consider doing so. Thank you for watching, everyone, and I'll see you on the next one. However, it was a limited run. There wasn't exactly loads and loads of copies made. Furthermore, it wasn't abnormal.